Hello everybody. Today I want to continue our lesson space, and I want to give you the last part in this lesson. Angles. The acute angle of two planes is equal to the acute angle formed by its normal vectors. To find the value of this angle, we calculate the cosine of the angle formed by the normal vector of the first plane P and the normal vector of the second plane Q. It's equal to the absolute value of their scalar product divided by the length of each vector. Okay? Why we have to use the absolute value? Since the scalar product is a number, can be positive, negative, or equal to 0. And in the given, we have the acute angle. The angle is acute, so its cosine will be positive, then its scalar product will be positive, so we have to use the absolute value. We have to study this rule. Cosine of the angle formed by the two planes P and Q is equal to the absolute value of the scalar product between these vectors divided by the magnitude of the first vector times the magnitude of the second vector. Example, given the plane P of equation x plus y plus 3 equals 0, and the second plane has an equation x plus z minus 5 equals 0. The question is, calculate the angle formed, the acute angle formed between the two planes P and Q. So it's a direct application of this rule. First of all, we have to find the normal vector of each plane. The plane P of equation x plus y plus 3 equals 0. So its normal vector is 1, 1, and we don't have z, so it's 0. The normal vector of plane Q is 1, we don't have y, so it's 0 and 1. We can calculate the scalar product between the normal vector of plane P and the normal vector of plane Q. So it's equal to 1 into 1 plus 1 times 0 plus 0 times 1. It's equals to 1. Now we find the value of the length of each vector. It's equal to radical of the abscissa power 2 plus the ordinate power 2 plus the height power 2. So the value of the magnitude of the normal vector is equal to radical 2, same to the norm of the normal vector of plane Q equal also to radical 2. Cosine of the angle formed by the normal vector of P and normal vector of Q equals to the absolute value of 1, it's equals to 1, divided by the value of the magnitude of the first times the magnitude of the second. It's equal to 1 divided by radical 2 times radical 2. It's equal to 1 over 2. Okay? But the question is, find the measure of the acute angle. But we have the cosine. Using my calculator, we can find the value of this angle by shift cosine of half equals pi over 3 in radian. Remark, we can calculate the value of this angle in radian or in degree. Second part is the acute angle of the two straight lines. The acute angle formed by two straight lines is equal to the acute angle formed by its directing vectors. So it's similar to the angle formed by the two planes. In the two planes we use the two normal vectors of this plane, but the acute angle of two straight lines we have to use their directing vectors. So cosine of the angle formed by the directing vector of these two straight lines is equal to the absolute value of the scalar product divided by the magnitude of the first times the magnitude of the second. Okay, example. Given the equation of the line D, x equals 2t plus 5, y equals t, and z equals minus t plus 3. And I give you another line of equation, d prime x equals m plus 3, y equals 2m minus 1, and z equals m plus 1. First step is to find the directing vector of each line. Then we calculate the scalar product between these two vectors, and we divide it by the magnitude of the first times the magnitude of the second. S of D, 2, 1, minus 1. S of D prime of abscissa 1, ordinate 2, and height 1. So it's 1, 2, and 1. SD, scalar SD prime is equal to x prime plus y prime plus z prime. 2 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus minus 1 times 1. So it's equal 2 plus 2, 4. 4 minus 1, it's equal to 3. We calculate the magnitude of the first vector. It's equal to radical of its abscissa power 2 plus its ordinate power 2 plus its height power 2. So it's equal 4 plus 1, then it's equal to radical 6. Norm or magnitude or length of the vector SD prime equals to radical 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 1 squared. It's equal also to radical 6. By using this rule, cosine of the angle formed by the two directing vectors SD and SD prime is equal to the absolute value of 3, it's equal to 3, divided by norm of the first times the magnitude of the second, so it's equal to 3 over 6 equals also half. After simplify, we obtain half. Okay? So, the measure of this angle, alpha, is the angle formed by the two straight lines D and D prime, equals shift cosine half, it's equal to pi over 3 in radian. يعني بالصدفة طلعوا same angle، مش بالضرورة دايما يطلعوا pi over 3. We can calculate in radian, in degree. We can obtain pi over 3, pi over 6, pi over 2. I don't care. The last part is the angle and the acute angle formed between a plane and a straight line. Third part, acute angle between a plane P and a line D. We can draw a figure. Plane P, we have a plane P, and we draw its normal vector. What's the meaning of normal vector? It's a vector perpendicular to this plane. We have a line D. This is the line D. Okay? The direction vector or the directing vector of D is a vector represents this line. So maybe this vector is confounded with this straight line or it's parallel to this line. This is SD. Okay? We have to find the value of the angle formed by the line and between the line and the plane. هلا الكل هون ممكن يفكر يا شباب وصبايا انه هيدا هو line between the هيدا هو الانجل between the line and the plane. No, this angle beta is the angle formed between the directing vector and the normal of the plane. But the diamond angle is the angle formed between the straight line and the plane, not between the line and the normal vector of the plane. We know that the normal vector to a plane is a vector perpendicular to this plane. So N is perpendicular to the plane. Alpha, the angle formed between the straight line D and the plane, and beta is the angle formed between the direction vector or the directing vector and the normal of plane. Alpha, angle formed by line D or SD and plane P. Okay? And beta is the angle formed by the direction vector and the normal vector. The directing vector of the line and the normal vector of the plane. What is the relation between alpha and beta? They are complementary angles. What's the meaning of complementary angles? I mean their sum equals to pi over 2. Why? Since the normal vector is a vector perpendicular to the plane. So it's perpendicular to any line including in this plane. So we have to study that alpha equals pi over 2 minus beta. Okay? Or alpha equals 90 degree or alpha equals 90 degree minus beta. حسب إذا نحن كنا عملنا الفاليو للبتا بالأصل in radian or in degree. Okay? طيب. Now we have to take an example, direct application to this rule. I think هيدي أسمك فكرة بس إن شاء الله كمان بيمشي حالها. Okay? Example. Given the plane P of equation 2x plus y minus z minus 1 equal to 0. And the straight line D of equation x equals m minus 1, y equals 2m, and z equals m. The question is, calculate the angle formed by the plane P and the straight line D. The acute angle formed by the straight line D and the plane P. Normal of P is 2, 1, minus 1. Okay? The direction vector of straight line D is 1, 2, 1. Same rule of the acute angle between plane and plane or line and line is cosine of the angle equal the scalar product, تحديدا the absolute value of the scalar product divided by the norm of the first times the norm of the second. But if we look on the figure, we can find the value of beta, تحديدا cosine beta. Cosine beta هيدي الرول اللي هنستخدمها دايما is absolute value of NP scalar product with SD divided by norm of NP times the magnitude of the directing vector. هيدي الرول يعني بتلاحظوا نفس الشيء شباب صبايا، نفس الشيء، بس كنا نشتغل between two straight lines. كرمال هيك بيكون وقتها بيكون في two directing vectors، أو between two planes فبيكون two normal vectors. In this case between line and the plane, so we have normal vector and directing vector. هيدي الرول اللي حنطبقها. Okay, we can find the cosine of the angle beta. So absolute value of NP scalar product SD 2 times 1 plus 1 times 2 minus 1 times 1. Okay, divided by radical of 2 squared plus 1 squared plus minus 1 squared times radical of 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 1 squared. So it's equal to 2 times 1, 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 minus 1, it's equal to 3. Okay? Absolute value of 3 is equal to 3. Radical 2 squared plus 1 squared plus 1, radical 6. Radical 6 times radical 6, then it's equal to half. Implies beta equal shift cosine half. Using my calculator, it's equal to pi over 3. اللي نفكر نحن بهالطريقة we find the acute angle between the line and the plane بيكون غلطان لسبب بسيط. Beta represents the angle formed by SD and NP. يعني هيدي الفيجر لازم دايما تكون براسنا. اوكي. Alpha represents the acute angle formed by the straight line D and the plane P. So alpha equals to pi over 2 minus pi over 3, it's equal to pi over 6. If we calculate beta in degree, so alpha equals 90 minus 60 degree, it's equal to 30 degree. اوكي شباب، فاذا بهالطريقه نحن خلصنا درس السبيس كلياته. Any question تسالوني اياه باي واتساب.